Keynote. We have Frances Yu here. She's from Deloitte, who also happens to be one of our sponsors. She's back here in her beautiful red jacket. She's going to come up here and she's going to talk to us about humanizing digital. She's a partner and US and global lead for Unlimited Reality for Deloitte. They're launching new digital-enabled businesses and new brands and transforming sales and marketing capabilities that humanize the digital experience. So welcome, Frances Yu.
Good morning. Welcome to Chicago. My name is Frances Yu, and I'm a Chicagoan. So for any of you out of town, I'm so glad that Chicago weather pulled off for you. So welcome to Chicago. Today, I'm going to talk a bit about humanizing digital. And speaking of humanizing digital, a little bit about me. I have been with Deloitte over the past 20 years. And I have always been serving clients in a range of industries, but in particular, high-tech industry. And I have had the privilege of working with companies who are truly driving the frontier of innovation, launching new businesses, engaging customers in different ways, forging new ecosystems. I've also had my fair share of working with businesses who their core business model being disrupted by all the generations of convergence of technologies, right? So through that process of seeing the hopes and fears, working with the side of disruptors and being disrupted taught me a tremendous amount. And hopefully that frame of reference give me the foundation of some of the dialogues, some of the thoughts that I'm going to share with you today. And I absolutely look for an engaged conversation with you. Okay, so the summit organizer or host asked me to talk about this particular moment. So over the next half an hour, I thought I'd just talk a bit about this particular moment and also the movements around this moment and the meaning that I have seen successful companies, thoughtful companies have been given to this whole movement. So let's talk a bit about the moment. This moment, it's a bit about like everything, everywhere, all at once. It's just like the movie. And it's really, to me, it's like the ecosystem of change. We're seeing tremendous amount of change in terms of the face of our consumer, in terms of the nature, the business of retailing, and also in terms of the nature of digital. Something, however, hasn't really changed. If I look around, like, people still only have 24 hours in a day. I didn't get, with all the innovation, I didn't get 28 hours in a day, if I don't count multitasking. People's wallet, our consumers' wallet, if you count real wallet, it's actually a bit shrinking over the past 12 months. So as we think about this whole everything, everywhere, all at once, kind of noisy time, there's something really quiet about it. The quiet thing is about looking at how our consumers are actually thinking about spending their time, spending their dollars, and also what matters to them, right? So getting to what matters to them really gets to the face of changing consumers. And we've been studying the face of consumers over the past decades. We have global consumer tracking study, and in our future of consumer, we learned that our consumers are a lot more diverse. In particular, if we're looking at what I call the generation reality plus, the Gen Zs and millennials, they actually culturally, identity-wise, racial configuration, a lot more diverse. But that's not just it, right? If we're looking at, I talked about the reality plus generation, and I happen to be I'm a mother of suburban mom in Chicago of 2 teenager kids. So I get a privilege of living with the reality plus generation. And it's interesting if you're looking at their spending power, today they account for about a third of the population. Their spending power is about 30% or so, but it's the real interesting thing is by 2025, Gen Z, the millennials, their spending power is going to be overtaking the boomers. So that's quite significant. The other part, through our study, decade-long study around digital media, around digital life, is that this group, the generation Reality Plus, they spend over 8.5 hours a day consuming digital media. So they really live in this whole virtual world and physical world. They're traversing between the physical and digital. There's also an interesting thing that we have learned in studying this group is that 50% of them saying, look, my virtual experience is just as impactful. My virtual experience is a meaningful substitute of my in-person touch. And as I mentioned that I'm a mother of 2 kids, as a mother can attest, right? Not surprisingly, 4 out of 10 of this group saying they actually socialize more online than in the online video, online game than offline, right? So what? So the so what here is it taught us a lot as we think about, as we work with our brands in terms of their playbook of engaging with the generation Reality Plus needs to be different from the playbook they have with previous generation and previous consumption patterns. So that's a bit about the changing face of consumer. I want to quickly touch on the changing business of retailing. You are all the insiders, industry insiders in the business around retailing, around consumer engagement, and that's why you're here. I think what I'm going to share, the 3 major things that we're seeing in shifting in the business of retailing is not going to be a surprise to you, right? It's more a quick reminder of us setting the context. So retail, number 1, that we know the points of purchase has shifted from physical to e-commerce to social commerce, and now with the new emergence of metaverse commerce is still a work in progress, but we start to see some really interesting things in terms of the presence, in terms of the way of engagement, in terms of also what people buy. So which gets to the second point of changing nature of retailing is what people buy has changed, right? So from our global consumer tracker, we learned that consumers today spend 3% of their wallet on digital goods and services, pure digital goods and services that doesn't have a physical twin to it. And the implication or the context of this is 3% doesn't feel like a lot. But for context, people spend 3.8% on clothing. People spend the major category of electronics only account for 3.4%. So now this actually has some magnitude to it, right? So next time, if you think about someone's going to, instead of maybe replace the pandemic era yoga pants, they may just buy a meditation app. So the notion of substitution, I see some smile there. Anyone have done that? No, I have. So when we start to think about the product, the goods in itself, it starts to shift. The last point around the changing nature of retailing is industry convergence. Now, I have said I'm a high-tech gal. I spent past 20 plus years working with technology companies. But if you imagine this, if I could stand up as a technology company, I can stand up a virtual store, I can engage with my consumers in that persistent manner, I'm also in retailing. And in particular, if my audiences wanted to buy a meditation app, which is a SaaS product, right? I have a full merchandising. So that really gets into the convergence of industry convergence, industry structure shifts, and I'm seeing that across automotives, across many of the non-traditional retailers today are entering this business of retail. So that's kind of a lot of change all at once, everything, everywhere, all at once. And what does that also mean from the moment of digital? I just kind of shared some pictures, a lot of pictures of technologies, the drones, the AIs, AI is an old AI. AI even has old AI versus new AI, has a battle of AIs. But all that, with the whole logo soup of things, what does that all mean? To me, when you kind of stir it all up and then let it settle, and also take a walk in time, something quite magical is happening today. If I look back on my career and happened to be like when I started, it's this like, end of Web 1. What did happen in Web 1? Web 1, we digitized information and fairly structured information, word information in a structured manner. Web 2, we digitized payments, social interactions, conversations, content in kind of structured, unstructured manner. But today, something magical is happening. We're actually digitizing reality. Now, what does that mean? Computation, it's both cognitive computation, spatial computing. You heard the term from anyone watched the Apple's WWDC last week. They talked about the era of spatial computing. And here we talk a lot about decentralized, the distributed computing, right? All those combined help us to summon and digitize the environment around us, the time around us, the space around us. It also allows machines to think, feel, see. The perception technologies over the years have advanced significantly. All those help us to have a digital realm that's more physics-based, more realistic. And I think the most magical thing that is happening is how we interact with, how we command that information. Think about this. Through eye projection, voice, gesture, movements, we can interact with that digital reality. And that free up the amount of imagination that we have as business people, as community leaders, how we could enhance our physical life better through this magical interaction, almost real interaction with a virtual world. So virtual over physical. Our consumers today could interact with this virtual world almost the same way as they interact with the physical world. That opens up a whole new way of thinking about business. And that, to me, may signal a real pivot from an industrial era, which lasted over 260 years, to a new era. You can give a meaning, give a name to the new era. Some folks call this the era of spatial computing, the era of metaverse or Web3, or you can fill in the blank. But to me, that is an era where we get the freedom to rethink how industries, how work gets done, how life live. And to me, that's why it's the most beautiful thing. Now, I'm going to pivot to talk about a few cases where those are real cases. Some of the cases will share the client name. Some of the cases will share as industry cases. When people ask me, Francis, when do you think AI meets XR, meets Web3 will happen? Those are kind of emerging technologies. And my 2 cents is like, it's happening today. It's like people always say, future's here now. We're just not equally distributed, right? So hopefully through this conversation, together, we can make future now faster. So I'm going to talk about customers, connected customers. I'm going to talk about connected products. I'm going to talk about simulation-based operations, and I'm going to talk about augmented workforce. Customer, Sinclair Broadcasting. They're an established broadcasting company, and for those of you who follow the broadcasting industry, like many others, they're going through a real industry structural shifts, moving to the cloud, moving to IP-based. They're also really looking intensely around this moment in time, seeing how might I connect with my customer base, my viewer base, my fan base in ways that's not done before. And Sinclair did just that, right? So I'm going to show you a quick video clip that was a clip based on the work Sinclair and Deloitte did for the past Indian Wells, the US Tennis Open, whereby Sinclair had delighted their fan base both in the court and beyond and at home, ways to engage. And you will see some technologies here. We talk about NFTs or cryptos, wallets, and immersive environments. It's all there, but technology is transparent when you bring a truly engaging experience to fans. So I'm going to fast forward a bit. Just realized that the timer flicked down, and we're getting a little short on time. I still have a few more stories I want to share, right? I will be happy to share all those content with you after the event. So I talked about product, connected product. Product in the past has its boundary, industry verticals, boundaries, but today we're really seeing the connected product delivers across industry boundaries. The connected product is not the hero product alone. It's becoming the journey that you invite the owner to be part of the hero's journey. And I'm going to share a story in the category that's 600-year-old category, the timepieces. Moza is a company established in 1828. It is a Swiss company based, and they make luxury watch, high craftsmanship. And let's hear what the CEO said about all the things that made the connected product experience possible.
H. Moser has always been known as a brand, exploring new territories, pushing boundaries. It all started with Heinrich Moser, our founder, 200 years ago, who was going to Eastern Europe, new territories where no watchmakers were very active, developing new technologies. He built the first hydromechanical dam on the Rhine River. So in many cases, Moser we try to go beyond our comfort zone and explore new territories. Web 3.0 is a new world, completely new space, new territories where you start to mix reality and virtuality, and we felt this is something that we want to explore. We want to be the first one to kind of try to figure out how this could be helpful to our consumers. So the Genesis project is a collaboration that, we're watchmakers. Digitalization, virtualization, Those kind of innovation is quite far away from our world. So we wanted to work with the best, and that's why we collaborated with Deloitte. They are our main partner in this project. The innovators, they are pioneers as well. I think there's a great fit. But we didn't work alone, the two together, because we need to bring a lot of different aspects in this project. That's why we had the chance to have amazing partners around the world, like Zurich Insurance, like Salesforce, like Crossmint or Aura. And I think that brings a very, very interesting solution, an ecosystem, again, consumer focused. So the ecosystem we created is very consumer focused. It's based on an app that allows owners or consumers to authenticate their watches, give them access to a lot of different NFTs and tokens. Some NFTs are more art NFTs or documenting the birth of their watch. They can store their collection. They can also activate their e-certificate, e-guarantee, e-insurance that we created specifically for this project. Of course, they have access to a special collection. We are watchmakers, we make special watches. So we created a triptych. It's going to be limited to 50 pieces. It's 3 watches, very special. Only one has been revealed yet, the Genesis. We will be able to discover this watch in the metaverse because we developed a very unique Moser lounge in the metaverse where people will have access to a lot of information about Moser. It's kind of a Swiss chalet. You will discover the history of Moser, what we actually do, discover new products, maybe even meet other collectors or other passionate people who follow Moser. So a very interesting mix between virtuality and reality that we're offering to the consumers. So we created
So I'm gonna skip the a little bit, and you can see that QR code etched into the sapphire crystal. So watching itself, if you actually take a screenshot, it'll take you to their site. A couple of things I thought, if you kind of caught on the CEO's narrative, right? It's about an ecosystem of product. It's about delivering the total experience. It's about making all those ecosystem of new technologies that we talked about, the logo soup, the buzzwords, actually invisible, right? And by the end of the day, it's a company incredibly proud about their heritage and about the culture. I want to touch on a little bit on simulation operations. We talk quite a bit about the operations side, and at Deloitte, what we start to do is working with our clients to really leveraging the edge computing, vision AI, and all the new technologies to help them simulate before a physical brick was even laid out. We start putting a tremendous amount of intelligence into the physical store. As you can see here, this is actually a live store where you can leverage edge AI, computer vision to really drive that whole dynamic sensoring real-time feedback. And here's a lot of use cases here, and I'm gonna zero in on a part where inventory replenishment at perishable. Anyone who runs store in the in this type of environment knows that shrinkage of perishable goods actually is quite a headache. And here, through the forecasting through the eye of a store associate, I will be able to know that based on history, how many buyers that I'm gonna expect, and based on real-time feedback, I know that how things are moving. And by the way, if I know this rotisserie chicken is going to be out of stock soon, I will get an alert, do something about it, right? So that throughout 24 hours in a day. And I see some head nodding. And this is, if you have similar stories, please do share. So this is around a simulation-based operation. And last but not least, it is all about leveraging all those technologies, immersive technologies, or a token-based engagement to help address 2 challenges that's really facing our whole society, our community. One challenge is really about this whole silver tsunami of institutional knowledge loss. The second is around upscaling learning new things, and it doesn't matter which generation you're from, learning new things using the immersive way. And we know that leveraging the immersive way of learning and a different modality of learning, you have better learner, you have more inclusive way of sharing knowledge, democratizing insights and knowledge, and you also have better retention. So that's kind of, as I was reflecting on the topic at hand, I thought I would wrap this whole conversation. We covered a lot of ground. The whole conversation really, to me, boils down to 3 words. It's about connected product, connected customer. It's about collaborative, but collaborative not by intention, but by structural, across the boundary of your value chain, across the boundary of your workflow, and across the boundary of functions. And last but not least, we're here because we wanted to leverage technologies to extend, to augment our natural abilities, not to replace them. And we've done this before throughout the history. So with that, I would leave you with this quote from Air. Rob Strasser talked about a shoe is just a shoe until someone steps into it. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of the day.